Boyfriend 27 discovered his parents have an open marriage. It is now doubting the whole institution. My boyfriend and I, 27 female, have been together 5 years. Now that a lot of our friend group has started to get engaged and married and we are both about to turn 28, we've been talking about it more. I've made it clear that my intention is to be married and not forever just dating. He has agreed. He has been alluding to getting engaged on a trip we have planned in December where my whole family will be there. Then a few weeks ago, he thought he discovered his dad in an affair, to which he told his mom about. Well, turns out they have an open marriage due to his mom's low libido. Apparently they had a dead bedroom for years until they opened things up. Obviously this is something they never wanted to share with their son, but they came clean rather than having him believe his dad was just cheating. This has been quite messes things up for him. He seems kinda lost, and has made comments about how this whole perception of his parents and marriage as a whole has changed. Now, whenever the topic of us getting married comes up, he acts really uncomfortable and changes the subject. This past weekend, after a night of drinking, he admitted he doesn't even know if he sees marriage in his future anymore. I don't know what to do. I love him and want to be with him forever, but marriage is 100% my intention. I have no desire to forever be boyfriend and girlfriend. I want to be sympathetic to what's going on with him as I'm sure it's hard, but at the same time my position on marriage is not and will not change. I don't want to make an ultimatum right now, but at the same time if marriage was 100% ruled out, I would leave him. He hasn't quite said that, only expressed doubt in the institution, so I don't want to say that explicitly just yet, but I also don't want to waste the rest of my 20s with someone if there's no future. What should I do? Edit. He does have a therapist he speaks to weekly. I would assume he has talked to her about this, but those discussions are between the two of them. We have not done couples counseling, but it's something I would be open to. Because I keep getting asked why I aspire to get married, here is a copy-paste where I answer that question. Formal commitment in front of family, friends, church, and government. Legal recognition that isn't provided to all domestic partners. Tax benefits. Religious reasons. Conditioned societal respect that married couples tend to get compared to people just dating. A more stable environment to raise kids. Lots of studies that show children do best with two married parents. I don't want to be 40 and referring to my long-term partner as my boyfriend or partner. I want that to be my husband. More as well, but those are some of the major reasons. I'm not advocating that everybody gets married, but it is something that I want. Didn't realize I'd get attacked so much for wanting to get married, considering just about every country the vast majority of adults get married. Now for the top advice. I think he needs more time to process this, and that you two should table discussions of marriage for a while. He only found out within the past few weeks, right? I would encourage him to consider seeing a therapist if he thinks it would be helpful for him to have a neutral sounding board for his feelings on this. It makes sense that this freaks him out. It is difficult for him. Give him some time and some space. Don't make any big decisions all of a sudden. Exactly this. Marriage is a decision that impacts your entire lifetime. Something traumatic like this could take months to cope with. Best to let him figure things out for a while without a lot of pressure. This is good advice. When he's had time to process, it's probably worth mentioning that different things work for different people. Some people have a very traditional marriage with traditional roles. Some are happy to be together in a traditional relationship but never formalize it. Some have committed relationships but bring others into the bedroom with them. Some allow being intimate outside of marriage separately, and so on and so on. It sounds like his parents started more like the first, but had a problem and their solution was to make it open physically. That's fine if it works for them. Opie made it clear that marriage is a life goal for her. That's completely reasonable. He likely will get over what he learned about his parents, but he also might decide marriage isn't for him. That would be unfortunate for the two of them, but also completely reasonable. There are all sorts of things that can make two people who love each other not compatible as mates, or not compatible without significant compromises. The trick is finding someone who you love, and who you can share a life with without compromising so much that you regret it. I think your post implies a few things, but doesn't outright say them, so I'm going to go out on some limbs. Forgive me if I'm off target. It sounds like he admired his parents' lasting and successful marriage, and saw it as a model for himself. And now that he's learned they're open, he sees their marriage as unsuccessful or unhappy. Has he considered that they do have a successful marriage still? And that one of the reasons it has lasted is because of the open arrangement, not despite it? It sounds to me like the parents realized there was a serious issue with their mismatched libidos and implemented a successful solution that allowed their marriage to continue. That's a good, admirable thing. Can your boyfriend allow himself to see it that way? Yeah, I think this is spot on, especially considering it came off the back of thinking his dad cheated. Emotions were high. He was hurt and disappointed and now thinks that their marriage was not as successful or happy as he assumed. But for all he knows, the open marriage helped it be successful and happy. OP maybe think or some open questions to ask him. Help him get to the bottom of what he's feeling. It's been a few weeks. You need to bring some chill. I understand this is upsetting and disappointing, but alluding to getting engaged in December isn't something you should have been holding him to in the first place. And it's perfectly fair for someone to change their mind. It is an issue for you that he changed his mind, but it's not an unfair thing he is doing to you. It's the fundamental truth about what he's experiencing. You're not going to address it by whining about fairness. Tell him you're worried. Tell him you don't want to be a forever girlfriend. Be prepared to tell him what marriage means to you. Ask him to define his relationship with you, not on the basis of his parents' agreement or choices. If you struggle to find common ground, see a therapist together to explore how your relationship moves forward. Next story is titled, "A guy I was seeing broke up with me over adult movies, and I'm at a loss." I, 28 female, was dating this guy, 31 male, for about 6 months and things were really going well, until a conversation we had seemed to change that. We were at his house. He was cooking us dinner and we were just having some cocktails hanging out, when somehow the topic of turn-offs in a partner came up. I asked what his were, and it was pretty typical answers. Lying, cheating, being disrespectful, laziness, and healthy habits. Nothing surprising. He said I didn't check any of those boxes and that was what he liked about me. When he asked what my turn-offs were, the first thing I blurted out was that I found men who watch adult materials unattractive. I've had to tell previous partners this, that it's only been a real issue one time in my past relationships. He just kinda nodded, and then asked me, what do you not like about men who watch this stuff? I said I think men who watch a lot of it have unrealistic expectations from women in the bedroom, and in my experience, they aren't as good of lovers. He just smiled and said he understood. We ate dinner, watched a movie, I fell asleep, and I went home after I woke up around midnight. We usually fool around, but we both worked in the morning and it was late. He walked to my car and kissed me goodbye. Everything seemed fine. Fast forward to the next day, and he calls me to tell me he doesn't think we should see each other anymore. I was shocked. He asked why I was saying this, and he said that he is one of the guys I was talking about last night, and he doesn't think we're compatible. I honestly wasn't putting 2 and 2 together and asked what he was talking about. He said he enjoys adult movies and get off to it a few times a week. He said watching it is fun, and he doesn't feel like it's ever impacted his performance. It hasn't, he's a good lover. But he said I shouldn't have to lower my standards for him, and he shouldn't have to feel guilty about something he enjoys. I said it was a conversation we could have later, and I didn't find him unattractive because of it. He repeated what I said the night before practically verbatim, and told me he really likes me and understands why I feel the way I do. He said he knows I'll meet someone who shares the same values. Anytime I try to explain I didn't mean it the way it came out, I just stumbled over my words. He said he wishes me well and to don't be a stranger, then hung up. I waited a few hours, and sent him a novel of a text explaining that I didn't mean I literally don't find men who watch it unattractive, just that I find the material itself sleazy and unrealistic. He replied with something along these lines, that stuff you've seen in those materials that you think is sleazy is stuff I've done and enjoy. Like I said, OP, you shouldn't have to change who you are for me, and I shouldn't have to change who I am for you. Don't stress over it, and take care. I feel off. Like you took what I said the wrong way, and now thinks I'm a prude. Everything has been pretty vanilla so far, and I'm no prude, and I'm open to stuff. I really like this guy. He's hardworking, handsome, really funny, and overall just a good time. Super laid back. I'm not happy about how it ended. Has anyone else ever been through something similar? Should I just let him go? My sister said I should be happy he was honest and upfront with me early about it. I want to confront him in person. Any advice is appreciated. He took it literally like you said it, and now you are attempting to change your tune when he is being honest with you? I'm sure he sees that as a turn-off too. Yeah, Getting to know each other, responding truthfully, and then backpedaling to try and change his mind sounds almost manipulative to me. Let it go. Like he took what I said the wrong way and now thinks I'm a prude. No, he didn't. You said before this that he repeated your words practically verbatim. He didn't take it the wrong way. He took it exactly how you meant it. You are now changing what you meant due to facts discovered about this guy that you don't want to lose. But this guy listened, didn't act rashly, thought about it, and communicated. Communicated wonderfully, I might add. A+ for him, and A+ for you up until you started trying to backtrack. Stop. You even said in the comments below that you would be fine with this for now if he eventually stopped watching. He doesn't want to stop watching, he doesn't want you to change him. Move on. He is 100% correct that your values do not align with his. We're compatible as long as this person changes XYZ, it doesn't work. He doesn't think you're a prude. He thinks you're not compatible. You need to move on. I couldn't agree more. This is spot on. Hi there. This may sting a bit. You were honest and true to yourself. He was honest and true to himself. He's done the right thing in splitting up with you. It's not because you hurt him or you have an incompatibility. You think you've told him he's a bad lover. What you have told him is that you find men who routinely watch and use these materials unattractive. He has said he's not going to change his habits. And why should he? This is your problem, not his. What you are doing now is reversing on being true to yourself. This is only going to make you more unattractive to him. Please do what you have to do to not send him any more explaining texts. It's not going to reverse what's happened. And girl, that's for the best. This was and still is a deal breaker for you. The fact you wanted it to be different with this guy does not change any of the facts. Grieve for the loss of this one, but not for too long. Then get on with finding someone who has the same values as you. That's what is going to give you your happy relationship. The thing is, he told me he watches it a few times a week and has stopped completely before we're in a serious relationship. As long as he stopped, if we took that step, I'd be okay. You're grasping at straws here. He literally said he shouldn't have to change himself. And now you're trying to say, well, maybe, and think he would stop for you. He said he's not interested in changing. Full stop. Don't try to change his mind. It sounds like he was kind in the way he split up with you. Respect that. Cut your losses and move on. Now for the last story. My husband made an inappropriate comment about my sister which got my entire family and her boyfriend uncomfortable, but he still sees nothing wrong with what he did. My husband, male 32, and I, female 29, have been married for 4 months. We've met 2.5 years ago. He's the type that likes teasing others and jokes about certain situations. Normally he's polite around my family, but occasionally throws some backhanded comments here and there that resulted in the person receiving those comments to be insulted. My husband would apologize and say he was just mewing around / teasing. My sister, female 20, has been affected the most by his teasing so far, but I only noticed it recently. He'd comment on her looks, the friends she hangs out with, her room, her beat-up car, etc. Sometimes go so far. I'd make inappropriate comments like when he saw her wearing a dress at my aunt's wedding. He made a comment about her thighs, which seemed playful but still inappropriate. He didn't even notice till I brought it up with him later. He explained he was saying the stuff randomly and promised to watch what he says around my family. He did it again days ago when my parents, my sister and her boyfriend were visiting. He was sitting with her boyfriend the entire time like they just became friends, even though they're not close, and seeing that her boyfriend has known us for 6 months only. My husband started talking to my sister's boyfriend, and out of nowhere dived into heavy stuff and kept asking inappropriate, intimate questions in front of my parents. I didn't know about that since I was in the kitchen. Mom walked into the kitchen to let me know they were all leaving before dinner. She looked upset, so I asked why, what happened, and she told me my husband embarrassed her, my dad, and my sister and her boyfriend by making an inappropriate comment about my sister. I didn't know the full story, but I couldn't make them stay, but I apologized profoundly, then asked my husband what was going on, and demanded he tell exactly what happened. He said he and my sister's boyfriend were talking, and he asked her boyfriend if she was any good in bed. I was stunned. Then he continued saying he then told her boyfriend that he'd definitely pursue her if she wasn't an in-law, and that's it. He insisted everyone overreacted. I told him how upset my family, specifically my sister, was. And he said she was being ungrateful, since he was just telling her boyfriend about how good and wanted she is, it meant no harm. I said harm already done when he embarrassed my sister, her her boyfriend, and my parents. I told him he had no shame and should start learning manners and stop making shameless, inappropriate comments at my family's house. We had a fight that lasted for hours. He said I was stressing him out over nothing, and my sister was being too sensitive and should dump the insecure little boy she's dating if what he said offended him. I'm so sick of this attitude, and I'm not expecting things to get better since he sees nothing wrong with it. Okay, your husband wants to sleep with your sister, and since he can't, he's doing what immature little boys do. He's being mean to the girl he likes. Do you want to be married to a dude who actively wants to bang your sister? This is exactly it. He even threw in the she should dump her insecure boyfriend so he can have her to himself again. He was probably jealous of him. Opie is going to lose her sister if she doesn't leave this guy. Honestly, I would never trust my sister again since she let the harassment go on for so long and never addressed it. Your husband is harassing your sister. He doesn't see anything wrong with what he said. At this point, I doubt none of your family want him around, and by extension you. Is this something you're willing to continue to allow? Because he's not going to stop. Edit. And if you keep bringing him around her, you're facilitating and forcing her to be in contact with her harasser. Keep him away from her until you wise up and divorce him. Are we just gonna ignore the fact that he said he would pursue her if she wasn't an in-law? Not if I wasn't married or if we both weren't taken, but rather insinuating that if she wasn't close enough to Opie to reveal it, he'd probably cheat. He could be cheating already for all she knows. Opie, your husband isn't making jokes. Jokes are supposed to be funny. When no one was laughing the first time, he should have stopped. He's shown his true colors and all of you are tired of his crap. Divorce him and find a man that won't make inappropriate comments about other people and constantly making your family uncomfortable. Or at the very least, make him go to individual and marriage counseling. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted to my brother-in-law lying to my sister? So I am 26 male, my sister is 28 female, my brother-in-law is 30 male, and my wife is 28 female. So my wife is 7 months pregnant, and she has some complications relating to the pregnancy, so keeping her calm is harder and more of a priority than it would normally be. But 2 weeks ago, she was told her father died, so I have been helping her grieve. But my sister recently, she told me a week ago she found out a bit before that, but didn't tell me. Found out she had breast cancer. But the thing is, brother-in-law was apparently, foreshadowing, on a very important 3-month-long business trip. So she wasn't able to reach him, because he was apparently very busy, so he only texted her supportive messages when she wanted and needed a lot more. So she came to me. Having to almost literally fully take care of both of them, I was tired and stressed. So one day while my sister was finding support groups and my wife was helping with planning the funeral, it was supposed to be a close family affair, so I wasn't a big part of it. I went to go to a bar with friends. We're all vaccinated and restrictions are being lifted for vaccinated people here, and was just venting to a friend who works at the same company as brother-in-law. It's a local one that has grown pretty well. And when I mentioned it, he said that the company had no business trips going as of now, and I lost my crap. I asked my friend to call him, and because my friend works at the company, he answered and I asked him where he was. He played dumb, and I said that I knew he wasn't on a business trip. So he came clean and said that he wanted to go to a friend's house and party as COVID restrictions were finally up. I started screaming at him and told him that his wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and he prioritized partying with his friends more? Told him he's a scummy, horrible person. He yelled back that I'm selfish for only caring about my stress right now. I retorted with he's selfish for not going back to his wife, and yelled numerous obscenities and told him I would be telling my sister when she calmed down. He yelled at me saying I'm a jerk for not letting him have his own time before hanging up. My friend says I'm in the right, but I still feel like I could be an a-hole for yelling obscenities at him. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your brother-in-law sucks. He has abandoned his wife for months to party when he knows his wife is in the midst of a medical crisis. A weekend would be bad enough, but 3 months? I was thinking something similar. A weekend would be fine, but 3 months is BS. If I'm getting the timeline right, he planned his trip before the diagnosis. and felt the need to not only lie, but go away for such a long time. Where the hell is that money coming from? Are there not better things to spend it on? There are clearly some issues here, and even without the diagnosis, I would say either brother-in-law needs to change or she should drop him. Not Dayhall. Part of being a good caregiver / support to your family and friends is self-care. You were clearly dealing with some stress. This one night off was for you to regroup and re-energize. I know science / medicine has come a long way from even a decade ago, so I'm optimistic about your sister's medical situation. Also, congrats on the new upcoming addition to your family. Not Dayhall. Sounds like he's staying with a friend and still working, so money wouldn't really be any different other than meals. This is crazy, and I hope he definitely needs to tell his sister so she can leave this loser. Not Dayhall. Just an FYI, he was out cheating. He was definitely shacking up with someone else. It was no party to be had, my friend. A 3-month-long business trip? Yeah, but he had a 3-month-long relationship. Yep. 1. No parties 3 months. 2. You can answer your phone if he was just partying. He's definitely with someone else and is hiding it. Not Dayhall. Without the cancer diagnosis, lying to his wife about fake business trips is scummy. Partying both during COVID, restrictions may be easing but they are not gone. And while lying to his wife is scummy. The cherry on top is, when he finds out his wife has breast cancer, his first thought is Opie's the selfish one for yelling at him? Nope, he deserves that thrashing, and I hope your sister doesn't let him off easy. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole if I go on a trip without my paralyzed twin sister? My twin sister and I, 25 female, were the very best of friends growing up. Did everything together, spent every minute together. We recently celebrated our birthday. We were originally going to go on a trip that would have us hiking, camping, exploring, and doing other outdoorsy things we've never done because we grew up in the city we live in now. Last year, my sister was in an accident that left her paralyzed. She's in a wheelchair and she'll never walk again. Obviously, this changed her life in ways I'll never understand. But I cried with her and spent all my free time, I go to med school in this city, with her when it happened. As she started healing, she started being very cold towards me. It was clear she wasn't happy that I was able to do things she couldn't, which I fully understand. She was getting nastier and nastier with her comments until I decided to give her the space she needed. It breaks my heart that we aren't as close as we once were, but I know she's going through so much. When our birthday approached, my father asked us how we would like to celebrate, and my sister said she wanted to go to a museum and dinner. She mentioned trying a camping trip in a few years when she was more used to her chair. We celebrated how she wanted and had a great time. She enjoyed herself, so I was happy. Unbeknownst to me, my boyfriend, also in med school, dating for 3 years, has met my family and they all love him. Planned a trip for the two of us, him plus me, to go to his hometown area. Said trip would include camping and hiking, but the point of the trip was to see his hometown and his brothers, his only living family members, both of whom I've never met. He had no idea my sister and I had wanted to go camping, etc. My sister was furious when she found out about the trip and will not speak to me, take my calls, or listen to my parents try to talk to her about me. I did explain to her everything I said in the previous paragraph, but it made no difference to her. My parents have told me to go on the trip, and that my sister will eventually get over this feeling. But the fact that my twin sister, who was the other half of me for 24 years, wants nothing to do with me, has me feeling pretty low. I know the trip means a lot to my boyfriend, who has said we can cancel, but I feel like that would make me an a-hole to him instead. The trip would be in early June, so I can't wait it out too much longer and do need to make a decision. I was speaking to a nurse friend at my hospital, and he recommended I post here to get insight, but I did make a throwaway and change some slight detailing. Am I the a-hole if I go on this trip without my sister? Edit. Part of what got cut out was how my boyfriend told me. It was at a dinner in which my sister and parents were present. Also, we are identical twins. Not the a-hole. It is a tragedy what happened to your sister. However, it does not mean that you have to stop doing everything that brings you joy because she is no longer able to. It is certainly difficult for your sister now, but sooner or later she will need to come to terms with it. I hope she does. Also, that she's seeing someone for these feelings. I know it's common to do so after you've been in a traumatic accident, and if she's not ready, she should. Not day-hall at all. You are your own individual. Of course, it's all right for you to go on a trip with your boyfriend, without your sister. If your sister has a problem with it, it's clearly issues on her side. Nothing you can do. It would be crazy to cancel. The trip had nothing to do with your sister from the start. If you cancel, you're only going to be validating that your sister had a right to be angry, which she absolutely does not. Not day-hall. Your boyfriend didn't intend to be cruel. He just included activities that he knew you were interested in, and it happened to hit on a sore subject. Unfortunate, but not intentional. Go on the trip, meet his brothers, and take note of the things that, someday, you might be able to share with your sister. In the meantime, has your sister seen a therapist? If she hasn't, please talk to your folks about broaching that subject with her. It sounds like she's gone through more than she can navigate on her own, and a professional could help with that. She hasn't seen a therapist, and she will not listen to anyone's suggestions that she should. My mother and father have both tried, and her doctors have recommended it, but she doesn't like when people acknowledge she even has the chair. I think she has a long way to go before she'll really consider therapy. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not respecting my dad's wishes and inviting my ex-step-siblings to our baby shower? My wife is pregnant with our first, and last week was our baby shower. I, 28 male, have 2 ex-step-siblings, though we still consider each other siblings. Sarah, 28 female, and Mikey, 26 male. My dad and their mom got together when I was 10, and their mom was awful. Not just to meet my sister, but to them too. She never cared about any of us. My dad worked all the time, so most of the time she left us alone so she can go out and have fun. Cheat on my dad with her many boyfriends. Because we were home alone all the time, we bonded a lot. Watching movies until 3 a.m., making dinner for ourselves or helping each other with our school. Mikey is dyslexic and my ex-stepmom never bothered with him, so we had to help him the most. Their mom was mean to all of us, so that made us bond even closer. Have that level of understanding that we were all going through. My dad finally saw her true colors and how toxic/abusive the marriage actually was when I was 15. It was an ugly divorce and my dad wanted to be completely cut off from her, so we weren't able to see each other as much. He basically banned us, but we still hang out after school. By the time we were adults, my sis and I told Dad he can't control who we can/can't spend our time with, so he knows we're still in contact with our step-siblings. They were at my wedding. My dad wasn't because he was out of the country. And now with my wife pregnant, I want them to be involved in our son's life as uncle and aunt. They want that too and are super excited to meet him. Before, when we were planning the baby shower, my dad asked, "You're not inviting them, are you?" I told him yes, and he didn't take that well. We'd had this argument before. He hates that I still involve them in my life when they, according to him, have no business. And again, I said to my dad, it's my life and my family's life, and I want them involved in it. On the day of the baby shower, when they showed up, my dad was ignoring them and in a bad mood. He left early with his wife, and then he called me up later to tell me what a cruel son he thinks I am, for not respecting the fact that he doesn't want reminders of his past failed marriage when he's trying to enjoy a celebration for his grandson, and tired of me putting them first over his emotional health. So I know the divorce took a huge emotional toll on him, and it was hard coming to terms with the reality of how awful my ex-stepmom truly was to all of us, including him. I get that being hard, but I don't feel that's my step-siblings' fault. They don't even have a relationship with her anymore. But to him, they're still reminders of that time, and it upset him seeing them at the baby shower. Was I Nahal for still inviting them knowing he wasn't comfortable with it? Now for the comments. Not Nahal. Your step-siblings aren't responsible for their mother's behavior. You are showing way more maturity than your father by keeping a relationship with them. He needs to stop making things all about him, and move on when the divorce was years ago. You divorce wives, not children. Not Nahal. Not Nahal. Your siblings were innocent in all of this, and your dad is the a-hole for holding it against them. For real though, there's only one person in the wrong here, and it's sure as hell not Opie. Not Nahal. One of the great things about adulthood is you get to choose your family. You got 2 great siblings out of a horrible situation, and you have every right to keep them as part of your family. It's too bad your father didn't see it as an opportunity to gain two awesome kids, but that's his problem and not yours. Not today, Hall. Your father abandoned you with a woman he later learned was terrible, and he still can't feel anything for anyone but himself. To him, it's a failed marriage, but for you and your siblings, it was years of neglect and cruel treatment. He doesn't get to choose when he is a parent, and he doesn't get to determine who your family is. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad to stick his present up his behind? So I, 16 female, am still living with my parents. Their wedding anniversary is in a few days, and I gift them a handmade present every year. This year, I wanted to make a collection of canvas paintings for them. I am very busy nowadays, therefore I wanted to do this quickly and go on my only free day of the week. Unfortunately, my parents chose that day to do gardening work. I told them beforehand that I was busy and couldn't help them. My father was a bit grumpy about that, but let it slide. So I started at 7 a.m. and finished at 5 p.m. So basically I was painting upstairs in my room all day. After cleaning up, I walk downstairs and tell my dad that I've got time to help my mom now. He doesn't respond. I ask if everything is fine, and he says, why wouldn't it be? So of course something is up. He dances around the issue for a while, until he tells me that he's disappointed in me for not helping them. I argued that I told them I was busy. We go back and forth for a while, until he yells, asking what could be so important. At that point, I felt simply invalidated, no matter if he knew what I was doing or not. So I just yelled back that I was making their wedding anniversary present, and he can stick it up his behind when he receives it, because that was the last time I'd hand make a present for either of them. I stormed upstairs and that was about it. I'm definitely not proud of what I said, even less knowing that my mom hates us fighting. But on the other hand, I feel like no matter what I do, something is always wrong. Am I the a-hole? This is called miscommunication, and the end result is a normal family BS. You and your dad are not a-holes. You are humans, and you had a differing perspective because you had differing information. You should have told him what you were up to at some point, so he would not be boiling all day. No a-holes here. Talk to your dad and say, I want to discuss what happened yesterday and see if he can make amends. You decided to make a complicated, time-intensive gift in one day. You decided to refuse when asked with a vague "I'm busy." You decided to get upset and rude when asked what you were doing. You decided to be evasive and expected him to know what you were doing. You decided to act like a brat and throw a fit when he didn't successfully read your mind and praise you for being so considerate. The words, "I'm working on your anniversary gift" would have solved everything. But then you wouldn't have had a reason to complain about your mean dad who yelled at you when you were doing something nice for him, would you? You're the a-hole. Yeah, this is pretty much it. As soon as dad started getting upset, letting him know she was busy making their presents would have ended it. I can cut a 16-year-old some of slack for not having great communication skills. Half of these AITA posts occur because adults have poor communication skills. No a-holes here. It's the kind of thing where the child wants to surprise the parents with a gift, but not spoil it by giving it away that is for them. And the parents thinking that the child is just trying to get out of doing work / chores around the house, or thinking the child's business is not as important as their request to do something. Miscommunications happen. If you had a history of getting out of doing things for your parents by doing this, it's probably why he reacted this way, and will change my judgment accordingly. But I'd say no a-holes for now. Edit. Thank you for all your comments, feedback, and critique. I've spoken to my parents and sincerely apologized for being a mouthy brat. My dad and I agreed to solve our communication issues better and try to be less confrontational than our usual selves. The current situation seems to have taken toll on us. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex he can figure out his own damn gifts for his own kids and stop expecting free stuff from me? I found out my ex was having an affair 5 years ago. He left me for the other woman, who he now has 3 kids with. We have 2 together. Our daughter is 10 and our son is 8. At first, I did my best to try and put things in the past and think of the kids by being considerate when it came to their siblings. And then they started expecting me to send more and more. I'm talking not just something for Christmas or birthdays, but Easter and whenever I get my kids something big just because. It was also the expectation that I would take them on fun trips with my kids, that I would have them in my home. And I just can't. I hate my ex. I hate his wife, and I don't love their kids, even as my kids' siblings. I don't hate them, but I also don't want to be part of their lives. Might sound terrible, but I just can't. Even with them being cute babies and toddlers, there is just too much that went on with me and my ex and his affair partner that I can't deal. Now, ex is claiming that this is hurting the kids. I'm a spiteful witch, that I owe it to our kids to be a better person, etc. And that it made the kids days to have gifts from someone other than mom and dad, since his wife is a former foster kid and he was disowned by his family for cheating. They're very religious and do not approve of divorce or any kind of cheating, and I can confirm they were disgusted by his actions. So the kids only have them. X was never a person who had a lot of friends, and definitely not someone who would buy gifts for the kids. The kids never really got into buying the gifts, which could be due to X only having one weekend a month due to his work schedule. But yeah, I guess part of me does feel bad because of the kids. The other part of me just really resents being in this position and being taken advantage of by my ex and his wife. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Ironic that a man who had an affair left you for the mistress is telling you to be the better person. Well, he knew he wasn't capable of being it. Not the a-hole. You do not owe your ex's kids gifts. Unfortunately, the expectation has already been set up with them, but they'll get over it. Don't let yourself be guilted. They definitely would. All his kids are under 5, so we'll probably forget eventually. I can still feel a bit guilty, but it's not a thing I want to keep doing forever. Not the a-hole. He thinks you owe it to the kids to be a better person? What does he owe to the kids then? Not the a-hole. What about not having a home-wrecking father? He owed that to his first kids. Not the a-hole. He is latched onto you like a leech. Salt won't work here, but he needs to get shut down hard. The cohesion of his family is his business, not yours. Good luck. He sounds very tiring, but you are absolutely right. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my bio dad a stranger? Long story, hope it makes sense. I, 27 female, spoke to my bio dad, 50s male, a while back, and he said he wanted me to have his last name. In the past, this man claimed my mother was a loose woman and that I wasn't his child. He would even tell me this when I was little and was visiting him. So I told him I didn't think I wanted to do that because of said history, and he made it off like it should be an honor, and that he's ready to claim me as his own. Fast forward, I get a call from his sister. She asked if I could go to court and tell a judge that my bio dad is my dad, so that it would be easier for him to get a green card. I said I'd only do it if he was going to bring my siblings over too, but I wanted to wait. Well, they moved on and tried to find another way to bring him into the country. Eventually, I spoke to his family about what happened and mentioned that he doesn't know me. He's never acknowledged my birthdays or helped my mother financially. She had to bust her bum to give me what I needed, and luckily, what I wanted. I'd only call, but with years between phone calls, visits only happened because my mom would save up to send me on vacation during school break to see her sister. And every chance I had to spend time with him, he would get drunk and just rant about how my mother is loose. I also mentioned that I tried to confront him about this, and how much pain it cost me, only for him to deny it ever happened. He might have been too drunk to remember. Anyways, once my rant was over, I topped it off with threatening to file for child support on my mother's behalf if I did help him get a green card. I said he's a stranger and has a big sense of entitlement. Well, his family didn't like that at all. They said I needed to forgive him and to let him into my life because he's my dad, and always will be. My siblings are very offended, and some of our cousins have been rude about it too. They're acting like I'm being disrespectful. I don't think I said it in a rude way, but with conviction. Am I the a-hole? Edit. This post has me shaking in my boots down memory lane. I should have clarified some things. He is currently sober, and his sister was going to cover all the expenses, including a lawyer. I'm not too sure what the process is, but I was told I could have helped the process to get a green card go a lot faster. He tried to find another way to get into the country, so I'm sure he can keep trying. I just needed time to process their request, and I only considered it for my siblings' sake. As for the child support, I felt like my mom would be entitled to some kind of compensation. I don't even know if I could file for it. She paid for a lot of medical bills insurance wouldn't cover when I was growing up, so shouldn't they try to help? She never asked anyone for a dime when I had a surgery. Never even shared about the financial pressure she was under until much later, and that made my heart hurt for her. I don't believe my mother is a loose woman. I think she chose to leave an unsafe/unhealthy situation. She became a citizen in another country, learned to write/read/speak another language, and became an independent woman who lived kinda comfortably. I also think this embarrassed them, so they slandered her. Most women stay no matter what in their town. And what makes me laugh is that my mother never spoke a word about him unless I had questions. Thank you. You guys helped me realize that this guilt isn't mine to bear, and gave me the confidence to start putting some boundaries up or cut them out. I'm more than happy to forgive them for being human. I just don't want them in my life, and that's okay. I decided that today, actually. Bless you all with whatever good vibes you believe in. Not today, Hull. Just sounds like they want to use you to get him a green card. Exactly this. And he'll disappear when you're not of use to him anymore. Until he needs a kidney. Not today, Hull. He is a stranger as he's not been father. End of story. I forget what comedian it is, so I can't give them credit or direct to a YouTube link, but he's got a bit about how if you refer to your dad as your bio dad and not just dad, it really tells you all you need to know about that relationship. Not today, Hull. If he hasn't acknowledged you over the years and suddenly wants you to have his last name, then he is the a-hole. Not today, Hull. Providing seed does not make someone a dad. You owe him nothing. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad that I wouldn't need to use my magical child of divorce powers if he didn't F up in the first place? Some background. My female 17 mom and dad separated when I was 6, and he married to Maggie when I was 8. Since then, they've had 3 kids together who I absolutely adore. Even though we're only half siblings, they all tie for the #1 spot on my list of favorite people, and we're pretty close. Plus, my dad is currently going through his 3rd marriage as he was married once before my mom. My dad told me a few days ago that he and Maggie are getting divorced for reasons I'd rather not explicitly disclose, but in general, they're both at fault. He is currently staying at my grandparents' house. It has been for about 2 weeks, but my siblings think he's away on business. He really wants to see us, so he asked me to come down and I agreed. However, when he told them, they did not take it well. At all. And while I'm not really surprised at their reaction, from the way it was described to me, I don't think he really helped. From what I understand, Maggie and him sat them down. My dad appeared virtually, told them they were getting a divorce, refused to answer any questions as to why, except for them saying that they don't love each other anymore and they haven't for a while now. They told them that there was nothing more they could do for each other and that they were sick of trying. My siblings flipped out, and apparently haven't even been speaking with my stepmother since she told them. Now, when my dad told me this, he said that while he wanted to spend time with me this weekend, he needed me to patch up the kids and use my experience as a child of divorce. I told him I wasn't a therapist, and that while I'm more than happy to help, I can't promise that they're gonna want to talk to them because they have a right to be upset. He said that they were just overreacting, and that they're gonna have to grow up and get used to it because witching about it isn't going to change anything. At this point, I just straight up told him that if some people could keep it in their pants, maybe we wouldn't be here. He said that was unfair, and that he was my father, and that I had no right to talk to him like that. I responded that he had no right to tell my siblings, or anybody, how to feel, and that I hoped for the next marriage he might get it together. He hung up. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You were 17 years old, and you were right with everything. 1, you are not a therapist. 2, you and your siblings don't ask to be born. 3, you and your siblings has a right to be upset. But for your sake, don't let you used by them. It is their responsibility to bring their stuff together, not yours. Would probably be nice if OP to speak to her siblings as a child of a divorce and tell them that they'll get through it. Everything else is on Opie's dad and Maggie. You'd think by now Opie's dad would be more practiced at divorce announcements. But hearing this too will pass and they'll survive. If worse for the wear, from someone they like, trust, and who isn't currently engaged in breaking that trust, may be helpful to them. Lord knows these kids can't rely on their parents. Not a hole. You're absolutely not your half-sibling's therapist, and your dad is asking you to handle them for him because otherwise, he'd have to address how he screwed up here and actually parent. Good on you for recognizing it and telling him no. Honestly, if this is his third time divorcing, you would think he'd have learned what not to do by now. Nah, he just figures the next one will be pliant and submissive enough to do whatever he wants. Not a hole, by the way. Not a hole. I wish I could buy you a beer for such an epic response. Not a hole. It's his and Maggie's responsibility to arrange for therapy for the kids, not to guilt you into playing that role instead. Divorce can have a huge impact on younger kids, and it sounds like he's taking this far more lightly than his kids are. Calling Dad out may have been unnecessary, but Dad was being completely unreasonable and sounds like he could use the wake-up call. That being said, your dad's hostility on the matter, if unusual, could be a sign that he feels a reasonable amount of guilt for what his kids are going through. If so, he's coming from a place of many emotions and may not be at his most reasonable right now. Nonetheless, asking you to do the job of a trained mental health professional is inappropriate, and you were right to decline. Now, for the last story, am I the a-hole for telling my grown son why he didn't grow up with his father's surname? I, 44 female, was in a toxic relationship. My ex, Joe, 49 male, met me when I was 15, and we started dating when I was 18. My mom was against the relationship, and I moved in with him at 19, because I thought that since mom was never married, she didn't know what she was talking about. I won't go into more details, but eventually I wised up, reconciled with my mom, and moved away. Not that Joe made it easy. I later met my other ex, Eric, 45 male, and I told him about Joe, and said that he might reach out to him. I warned him that Joe was a liar and just a terrible person. Fast forward to me being 7 months pregnant with our son AJ, 20 male. This was my first pregnancy, and I was very nervous because it wasn't planned. I was worried that Eric would leave me after the baby was born, and constantly ask him to reassure me that no matter what happened, he'd still be here. Eric always did until one day he didn't, and I started noticing that he was becoming distant. Eventually, he told me that Joe reached out to him and showed him pictures of him engaging in adult acts with a woman, and said that it was me and that he was my baby's father. You can't identify who the woman is, so Eric brushed it off at first, but then he thought about how I was always getting him to promise me that no matter what happened, he would never leave me, and now he had doubt. I told him the reasons why I needed to hear him say it'd stay, reminded him how crazy Joe was, and even got others to back up my story, and told him that I don't even want to talk to Joe, let alone be near him. Eric said that he understood, but to ease his mind, he wanted a DNA test. I was upset and very insulted, and asked what or if I ever did anything to make him believe that I was a cheater. Eric admitted that I never gave him a reason, so I said that there would be no test. We got into a fight, and Eric said that he refused to sign the birth certificate until a DNA test was done. I was hurt and moved out. I didn't talk to him and gave birth with my mom by my side. We took the test, and Eric was the father. He tried to apologize, but I didn't want to hear it. I would never deny access to our son, but I felt like he wasn't reliable, so I gave our son my surname so that in case Eric left him, then my son wouldn't have to deal with his own name being a reminder of the father who might abandon him. Now that AJ is a legal adult, he said he was interested in taking Eric's surname, and I was fine with that. But he asked me why he never had his dad's name in the first place. It wasn't the first time he asked, but I always brushed it off before. However, now that he was an adult, I told him the truth. AJ confronted his dad, and now he's not speaking to him at the moment. I didn't intend to cause a rift, and felt like my son would be bothered by it because it was more about us than him. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add. Keep seeing it, so I'm going to say it here and instead of each comment. 1. Yes, I told AJ the whole truth and didn't twist details in my favor. I told him that his father had doubts after seeing pictures. I felt hurt and wasn't sure if I could trust his father to stick around. I admitted to him that it was mostly issues I had, but was also hurt that Eric would trust someone who hurt me instead of me. despite admitting that I never gave him a reason to not trust me. 2. After my son was born, I developed postpartum and I got therapy not too long after giving birth, and have worked out a lot of my issues now that I'm a more mature adult. 3. Yes, despite my fears, Eric did stick around. And up until now, AJ and him have had a great relationship, which is why I feel guilt now. 4. I refuse to hyphenate because, again, I thought Eric would leave and didn't want his name attached to our son if he did. 5. No, Eric never pushed to change the name, probably because he felt too ashamed after the test confirmed that I was telling the truth, but his side of the family would bring it up a couple of times. Not Dayhall. He's a grown man. He's old enough to know the truth. Not Dayhall. You were not married to Eric, and you never knew what kind of father he would turn out to be. You knew you were going to be a constant in your son's life, and it was in his and your best interest to give him your last name. Too many women give their children, who were born out of wedlock, no judgment, the last name of the father and then are tied, by name, to a man who doesn't participate in raising them. And that's what I was worried about. I've seen both sides of the situation for people growing up without their fathers, and those who didn't have their surname seem to have an easier time than the ones who did. Not Dayhall. He believed your abuser over you, effectively letting your known abuser use him to further his mistreatment on you. Dude's an accomplice to his act. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's female friend he might be your best friend but you're not his? Long story short, my husband has one of those female friends. I'll call her Sarah. Her and I get along fine, but every once in a while she'll make a comment or sit a little too close or touch him a lot, or compete with me on how close they are, or how well she knows him. She's one in a big group of about 11 friends. I've talked to my husband about her several times, but it's so many added up micro actions that it's hard to tell her off for one singular thing without looking crazy. Well, this past weekend, the group of friends got together for the first time since we're now all boosted. My husband and I eloped a few weeks ago, and this was the first time most were seeing us since. Sarah came right up and got in our face as the group was congratulating us, to tell my husband how disappointed she was in him for not telling her about our ceremony, not inviting her, not even sending her a photo. He told her nobody except our parents knew. Nobody was invited, and we don't have our professional photos back. This girl started sobbing. How could he do this to her? That she wanted him to be her man of honor when she gets married. She's single, and he didn't even invite her to his. And their friendship now needed some serious TLC to recover. This is in front of the whole group. I couldn't take it anymore and said, he might be your best friend, but you're not his. And this was between me and him. You were not even a consideration. There was so frosty ooze from the crowd, and she left the house. The crowd is split. They were all my husband's friends before I came into the picture, and some think it was uncalled for, and that I should have just let my husband handle it. I was mad in the moment, but now I don't know. Too far? Now for the top comments. Not stay home. She stepped over the line with her sobbing and demands publicly, and she needs TLC? She got a whole relationship in her head that may or may not exist, and your husband needs to draw that line in the sand. Yep. The TLC comments was, I think, what triggered me. The only tender thing I ask for my friend is chicken. Not stay home. I braced myself after I read one of those female friends. But now? Holy hell. Literally en route to see my best friend and his wife. No freaking way did I react that way when they eloped. Now I am as close to her as I am to him. Sounds like she pictured your husband as her fallback guy at least. Sobbing? That is deranged. Not stay home. But I'm curious as to why your husband hasn't distanced himself from someone who doesn't respect your relationship. They don't do things one-on-one anymore, but she's still within the main friend group, so hard not to have her around. He still needs to set boundaries. Her behavior was way out of line. She's honestly acting like your husband is either a fallback person for her or the one who got away. Crap needs to be shut down immediately, and you two need to be a united front about it. Not stay home. She was trying to make your marriage about her and her feelings. Not stay whole, and I wish you could see how hard my eyes rolled reading this post. Talk about no boundaries. She's so transparently into your husband it's almost painful. Well, you definitely could have let him handle her. You weren't out of line in the least. This girl needs to know where she stands, and that's well behind you. Nicely done. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister's husband out of my house because of what he did? I, female 34, lost my husband 8 weeks ago. He had cancer and it got treated, then it came back. It was and still is so devastating. I'm trying to stay collected and welcoming to all the supportive family members who come to offer help, despite my constant change in mood due to grief. My sister is the most supportive one, although her husband would act inappropriately sometimes, especially after he told me after the funeral that now I'm burden-free and can live my life, given I was my husband's sole carer. I try to let go of those comments, thinking he didn't know better. He, my sister, and my family came to visit last week. They cooked dinner for me and kept me company for a bit. After dinner, my brother-in-law asked for a minute with me inside the kitchen. He started telling about a co-worker of his who's single, then went on to list everything good about him. I was confused as to why he was telling me all that. He then reached out for his pant pocket and pulled a piece of paper with his co-worker's phone number on it, telling me to give him a call sometime. I was floored. I couldn't really tell if he was joking or what, but he looked serious and kept insisting I take the number. I lost it. I just started yelling at him that my husband just died, and he was out of his mind to try to hook me up with a co-worker of his. I tried to explain that it wasn't like that, and that he was just offering me something helpful, but I didn't know what he meant. I called him disrespectful, then yelled at him to get out of my house. My sister and the others ran into the kitchen not knowing what was going on. I told them, then pressured him to leave my house, but my sister asked that I calm down, but I couldn't. He left, then my sister left quietly. After I'd calmed down, I sat with my family, and they said I was right in that what he did was not okay, but I needed to keep in mind that he and my sister helped so much by cooking for me, comforting me and doing so much for me in these difficult times, so I shouldn't have reacted like that, and could have been a little more considerate and graceful. They said kicking him out was too much, and I should call him later and talk things out so I won't ruin my relationship with him and possibly my sister. It's been days and haven't called, and my sister hasn't visited or called, which means she's upset with me. And now I'm beginning to think they're most likely hurt because I acted ungrateful after everything they've done for me. Not stay home. Actions are not balancing each other. It doesn't work like that. It's not as if preparing meals for someone allows you to be inappropriate with them afterwards. Exaggerating here. I prepared a meal for you, and I think you are stupid, by the way. Hey, don't insult me. Well, I cooked for you, remember? Seen elsewhere on AITA today and somewhat applies. A favor held for ransom is no favor at all. Not stay home. He was way out of line and needed to be told to back off. How cold and rude. You are grieving for your husband, and you may never want to date again. It's only been 8 weeks. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm sending you my sincerest condolences. You don't owe anyone an apology. What he did was outright callous. Not stay home. He was clueless and cold and totally lacked empathy. Grief makes us extremely sensible, so of course his rudeness was extra painful. This is where, if you want, there is a room to mend a relationship. If you want. You can call your sister and say that you appreciate everything they have done to support you since your husband's death, but that your brother-in-law's offer was too soon and misguided, and that in grief your reaction was amplified. If he is willing to apologize for his lack of tact, you can apologize for the force of your reaction. You did not overreact. I think he should be the one to make the first gesture towards reconciliation, but he has proven he lacks completely in compassion and sense. So if you feel like it, this could be a way to move past this. Not stay home. I can't tell if your brother-in-law is an actual jerk, or just astoundingly lacking in empathy and social judgment. But either way, his actions were wildly insensitive and inappropriate, and your actions completely understandable. Agreed. It'd be one thing if the coworker runs a support group for widowers, but brother-in-law didn't even specify that, just said he could help. I would never think to shove a phone number into the hands of a recent widow without a really good explanation, and he gave none. My mom is a widower, and it took her 4 years to even contemplate dating again. She has a lot of friends who fulfill her life, so dating isn't top priority for her right now. Next story. Am I the a-hole for buying two of the same small car instead of a more practical car? My boyfriend is frustrated I didn't consider his needs. For a few years, I've had a newer AITA as my only car. I found it practical for myself. I've even traveled across country in it twice. My boyfriend doesn't find it as practical. He is 6'2" and finds it small. Plus, he doesn't like to pack light when traveling and is frustrated at only being able to bring one suitcase. Anyway, I wanted a car to take to track days, that I could mod more than my daily driver. I mentioned to my boyfriend that I was shopping around for another car. I wanted something to track, but I also was gonna keep it street legal so he could have a second car. He doesn't have a car of his own, so sometimes things are logistically difficult. I was looking at a few options for cars on Craigslist and then spotted a great deal on a 1997 AITA. It needed some work, but that's my hobby anyway. I jumped on it because that kind of deal doesn't stick around for long, and that same afternoon I bought the car. I got to work on it over the weekend and got it repaired well enough to be drivable. And I'm planning to add a roll cage, suspension upgrades, new sway bars, and new tires. But on Sunday when my boyfriend came back from a weekend trip he was taking, he was really upset to see the car. He was incredulous and bought a second of the same car, this one even smaller. He said he was expecting something full-sized which could fit more than 2 people. He has visitation every month with his kids he had with his ex, and he either has to take them on the bus or during COVID have his ex drive them to him and pick them up. So he was frustrated I didn't get a 5-seater car that could fit the kids along with us. I said I never knew he expected anything but me picking a track day car, picked out primarily to race, and letting him drive whatever it was if he needed to occasionally. But it seemed like he saw me getting the second car as primarily a car for him or our household. He said he wasn't trying to act entitled, but he did expect me to at least be considerate of his situation, and not just be like, me, and go buy a second car that is my favorite car but doesn't consider him at all. Am I the a-hole for buying a second AITA? Now for the comments. So, let me get this straight. You bought your car with your money, and your boyfriend who didn't pay for anything and doesn't have a car but likes the convenience of having one and being driven places by you is mad because you didn't spend your money on a car that he wants so that he can use it to drive around his kids? Alexa, play No Scrubs. Not stay home. Why doesn't he buy a car of his own to cart his kids around in? You needed another car for track day, not another daily rider. Sounds like he should ask you to help him find a fixer-upper and help him fix it up. His crappy life choices are not your responsibility. You're being kind enough to let him use your car. Does he live with you? Not stay home. He doesn't have to like your car. Not stay home. 1, it's your money. 2, it's your car. 3, it fits your needs. 4, he is a boyfriend, not a husband. 5, if he wants a car to fit him plus kids, he can buy one with his own money. Pretty much this. I don't understand people saying everyone sucks here because kids are involved. They have been dating for 2 years but only living together for 3 months. I would never just buy a whole freaking car just for a boyfriend. He wants a family-friendly vehicle or even a vehicle in general. He can buy his own. She's just letting him borrow it if he wants to use it, but she doesn't owe him anything, kids or not. Not stay home. It's your money and your car. If he wanted a car that fit him, he could buy one. Those aren't your kids. You're not responsible for their transportation. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for blowing up at my wife for giving my daughter a picture of my estranged mom for a family tree project? I was really close to my mom growing up, but she cut me off 12 years ago. She was kind of always a cold and awkward person, but she texted me that she didn't want to see me again. She hates my wife more than she loves me. And if she never has to see my wife again, it's worth not seeing me. It hurts like heck, and I had to go to grief counseling. One thing my mom had said was she mourned me like I died, and that I should let her go. I did the same, and I try not to think about her. But sometimes I think about the fact I have a whole family out there and just can't see them. It is a mind screw. Recently, my daughter had a school tree project. She knows the very basics, that my mom is alive, but we don't talk. I figured we'd leave both of my parents off it. Dad walked out. Well, last night my daughter showed it to me, and it had my mom on it. Just seeing her was hard for me, and it was clearly a new picture. I kept it together in front of my daughter, but I asked my wife, and she said she got it off Instagram because she didn't want half of the poster to be empty. I lost it and said she just hurt me so bad for a freaking poster, and how could she do that? She said I was overreacting and that my mom still gave birth to me, so she should be there. I called her selfish and heartless and slept in another room last night. She thinks I overreacted, but I think she crossed a huge boundary. Info. Why does your mother hate your wife more than she loves you? There's a whole backstory here that's missing. And why can't he see any of the rest of his family? They took her side. Sisters cut me off while aunt financially blackmails her kids into not seeing me. Answer the question. There may not be a real reason. My dad's mom hated my mother simply for existing. My grandpa's mom hated my grandma because she basically hated everyone. And a woman across the street brags about how she doesn't see two of her sons because she never liked their wives. Some women are just kind of horrible to the son's significant others. There doesn't have to be a reason. No a-holes here. The real a-hole is the teacher who assigned a project like this. Complete disregard for children's situations such as broken homes, foster care, etc. I suspect to have them present and explain to the class. This project should honestly not exist. It is literally no teacher's business what your home looks like. I can understand your wife wanting your daughter to feel like she does have a family and wanting her to know what her grandmother looks like. I can also understand you wanting your wife to respect the boundaries. She should have spoken to you first about it, and you should have acknowledged that at some point your kid is going to want to know more, and hiding family members from her isn't helpful. Edited to add because people are pressed. My dad taught elementary school for several years. Literally decades later, he is still haunted by some of the familial situations that some of those kids were in. While it sounds great to teach students that family models look different, it should never be done at the expense of a child. You are opening up a can of worms and a barrage of questions that other students now feel entitled to asking when you have someone explain that family member isn't in their life. What if that parent was an abuser to the child? What if the child's home life was bad enough to where they were removed? What does your child need to know what happened to Opie's kid's grandma? As someone who is in the exact same family situation, my mother-in-law's cut off because she didn't want a relationship with my husband if it included me, I would say not stay home. However, as I'm sure you know, it's almost impossible to understand the dynamics of a situation like this unless you've been through it. So you're going to get a lot of YTAs on this post. Since your wife was there for all of this struggle, I'm really surprised that she chose to include your mother's photo. It took my husband and I years of individual and couples counseling to come to peace with our situation. You and your wife might consider a couple of maintenance marriage counseling sessions to work through this. Also, 100% agree with the previous poster that projects like this are awful. So many kids don't have the picture-perfect family, and so many include trauma that this is not worth it. There are better ways to teach kids what it means to be a second cousin once removed. Yes, I always hated these projects in school, since I didn't know my dad, and my mom knew next to nothing about him, so they would always be completely empty in one half. A teacher actually argued with me one time that I had a dad after I told her I didn't. These projects just make anyone without a picture-perfect family feel super awkward and awful. And I love the family I do have, and wouldn't change my upbringing for anything, but those projects still suck. Am I the a-hole for demanding my widow sister-in-law their kids to leave after she put a lock on the bathroom door and denied my daughter access to it? I'm a father of a 16-year-old daughter. I own a one-bathroom middle-sized house where me, my wife, her widow sister, and her two kids, 13 and 16, live. My daughter had issues with her mother and requested to live with me permanently. I had legal stuff finalized and my daughter moved in with us a month ago. She and her stepmom get along, and so far everything was going well. My daughter had her period days ago. Nothing new, nothing strange, except my sister-in-law came to me complaining about my daughter leaving used pads in the bathroom, causing her sons to see them. I asked where exactly and she said in the trash can. I laughed in her face asking if she thought this was abnormal or strange. She got upset that I didn't understand her point and wanted me to listen carefully as she explained that her boys are pretty young and shouldn't be subjected to witness stuff like that. I said I'll see what I can do. I talked to my daughter and made sure she wasn't just leaving her used pads in full display inside a trash can. Turns out she wraps them in toilet paper, which is enough in my opinion. I told my sister-in-law there was no problem then, and she should quit being too sensitive over her boys. She got mad saying I was dismissing her concerns, and reminded me her oldest has blood phobia, and my daughter, even though doing it unintentionally, keeps leaving her pads exposed. I welcomed any ideas to fix this, and she suggested my daughter throw her used pads outside house. I stopped arguing at that point because of how ridiculous she was being. She threatened to change the bathroom door lock if I don't do something, but I laughed her off. Then my daughter called me the next day after getting back from school, saying her step-aunt refused to let her use the bathroom and was keeping it locked. She had to use her new friend's neighbor bathroom, but called me to let me know. I was freaking livid and went home and blew up at my sister-in-law. She apologetically said the lock was only for when my daughter tries to leave her pads inside, and that she would have allowed her if she agreed to put her used pads elsewhere, but my daughter was stubborn. I told her she was out of her mind to get a new lock for my door in my own house, and keep my daughter from accessing the bathroom. I removed it quickly, and she kept lashing, then called my wife. My wife came to calm us down, but I told her and sister-in-law that I have no problem kicking her out. My sister-in-law started crying, and my wife said her sister is a widow and will be homeless without us. But I said I stopped giving a crap the minute she tried to keep my daughter out of the bathroom. I demanded she leaves, but my wife said it was unfair to those kids. I bluntly said not my problem and she has 6 days to move out. Now for the top comments. Not today home. Boys are pretty young. Teach them that women have periods then. Christ. Your daughter has a great father. Tell sister-in-law if she doesn't like it, she can get out. Seriously, the boys are 13 and 16. They can deal with it and be glad they aren't the ones getting periods. 13 and 16 is old enough to learn not to dig through the bathroom trash. Not today home. Yay, Opie. Widows with 16-year-old and 13-year-old kids can well afford to work a full-time job, since the kids are in school most of the day and can stay alone for, say, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Or she can apply for welfare, food stamps, Section 8 housing, go to a shelter, ask her late husband's family for help. The possibilities are endless. She started receiving benefits after her husband passed away, but she complains it's not enough to provide for her 2 kids. The rest of my in-laws are negative and won't help. Everyone sucks here and there's an easy solution. The sister-in-law has to leave, but you let the kids stay. No sense punishing them for having a neurotic mom. Your sister-in-law is a monster, and I'm pretty sure what she did counts as some form of child mistreatment. But putting 2 kids on the street would also be horrible. Protecting your daughter should not involve endangering other kids. I don't think Opie's an a-hole. Sister-in-law literally locked Opie's daughter out of the bathroom in house I presume she doesn't pay anything towards. Besides, what are the odds sister-in-law would actually let them stay? Depending on where you live, only one is considered old enough to decide where they live. It sucks for sister-in-law's kids, but Opie should put his daughter first. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to share my stuff from my dad's at my mom's house? My parents are divorced and I split my time equally between parents. Until 2 years ago when I decided to just spend the time at my dad's and be less at my mom's. My reasons were largely to do with it being less crowded at my dad's. It's just me, him, and his wife. At my mom's, it's her husband, his 4 kids, and his 2 nieces who all live with him full-time. It bothered my mom because she thought I would love having a big family. But no offense to her, it never felt like a real family. They were her family, sure, because she married her husband, but it never felt like that marriage made us all anything. They were just random people. I never found anything in common with any of them, and I never felt love for them, except my mom. It was easier being there less. There was less pressure to hang out with them, and it didn't annoy me as much having so many other kids around. The problem is because they have so many kids at their house and they don't have that much money. Things are tight. My dad got me a new console a couple of months ago for my 16th birthday, and my mom knows about it. She asked me to bring it over some of the weekends, so we could all play and they could experience some of the stuff they miss out on. But I told her I wasn't going to do that. It's been a fight between us since that, because she's disappointed I don't want to share more of the privileges I get with my siblings. She doesn't know I don't think of them as my siblings. She thinks I see them as typical annoying younger siblings, but I really just don't think about them all that much. I just don't want to bring stuff to that house for my dad's. I have my stuff there and my stuff at her place, though not really anymore. The other night, my mom sent me a text that she's disappointed I don't want to do more to have fun with the others. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Sounds like you were an incredibly mature and insightful 16-year-old. Unfortunately, I can see the console thing going from bring it over every now and then to leave it here for a week to it getting broken. Not because those kids are bad, just 6 kids sharing a console sounds dire. You might discuss it with your dad. See if he can help you out. He may be willing to play the bad guy and say it stays at his house. I don't know your parents' relationship. Keep enjoying your space. Tell your stepmom you appreciate her. Huh. I did that for my son. Wasn't really concerned with how my ex thought of me, so I told her that my rule was that console stayed at my house. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Good chance Opie's dad will do that same. Not today home. If, and this is an if, you want to spend time with the other kids, you can suggest activities that everyone can afford to. Go to the park, play board games, etc. But do not bring things like a game console, because you know you'll be asked to leave it behind. Not today home. Your mom chose this family, while it was forced on you. She get a new love in her life, you get 4 random strangers wanting to borrow your stuff. I get that this must be hard. Good on you for not openly being hostile towards your new siblings. Not day hall for not wanting to share your belongings. You clearly are making efforts, but there are limits to what should be expected of you. If they break it, will they replace it? Of course not. Money's tight. Keep it at your dad's. Safer this way. It's 100% yours anyway. Not day hall. Your dad bought it, so it should be at your dad's. It's your call to want to take it over to your mom's. Just a reminder that those kids didn't have a say in the matter of having a new sibling, too. And I get that, which is why I'm not going around blasting it. I keep it to myself. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking a man to drop charges against my son? My 42 female son is 16 years old, and about a year ago, he started hanging out with an unhealthy crowd. I have been giving him detentions of all kinds, but it only made him rebel against me. So I stopped and let him figure it out for himself. A few weeks ago, the worst happened. I got a call from the police station that my son had participated in an attempted theft. As soon as I got the call, I told my husband, and we went to the police station. They told us that my son and his friends tried to steal stuff from some man's car, and when the man came and saw them, he had a heart attack due to previous problems. His friends all ran away, but he stayed with the man, called the ambulance, and helped him take his chest pain medicine. Luckily, he's okay now. When we got home, my husband was furious, but he kept yelling at him. But I tried to stay rational and ask my son to tell me everything. Then he broke down crying and told me how I was right about his friends and how horrible they are. He then said that his friends came to the idea to steal a wallet and a mobile phone they saw in the passenger seat in a car. He told them that it was a dumb idea and that they should drop it, but they didn't listen. He then didn't help them, but didn't stop them either. He saw the man coming but didn't tell them because he hoped for him to catch them in the act. But when the man came, he got so shocked that he started holding his chest and he fell on his knees. His friends then ran away, but he helped him. Now, the man has returned from the hospital. Also, he will be pressing charges against all the boys, including my son. Don't get me wrong. I know that my son did a bad thing, but I think it's a little unfair to treat him the same as the other boys who ran away. So I visited the man, and after a while of chatting, I asked him if he could drop the charges against my son because, after all, he was the one who helped him. The man then got furious and told me that I'm a bad mother and a horrible person for even asking such a thing of him. After I got home, I told my husband about what happened, and he was also mad at me. He said that our son has to face the consequences of his actions, but I disagree because a criminal record of this nature will ruin his life. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Not only did your son participate in a crime, you only have a side of the story. This man is at the hospital because of your son and friends, likely costing him lots of money. And you showed up to get your son off because he didn't let the guy die after participating in a crime? You're the a-hole. Crimes have punishments. What does it show your son if he gets off? That it's okay to do crimes as long as you make sure the other people do worse? He's a minor, and his record should be sealed when he turns 18. Making him deal with this now will prevent it happening again when the record can't be sealed. Also, if the son was so against it, why didn't he leave? He just stood around and watched while his friends broke into a car? You wanted your child to figure it out on his own, and now he's learning the lesson you didn't teach him. Congratulations! Yeah, this guy has it right. You should have kept trying to discipline him in my view. Keep going until you find something that works. But you didn't, which I can understand. Raising kids is hard. You made a choice of letting him figuring things out, and you should stick to it. It hurts, and it sucks, but you made your choice, and he made his. You're the a-hole, but I get it. No a-holes here. Well, I'm going against the grain. Given that your son called for an ambulance instead, and without this staying likely none of the kids/potential young adults would have been caught, I don't think that you're the a-hole for asking. Given the man's brush with the death experience, I understand his anger at your asking. The only reason the son stayed is to not live with the guilt of killing a man for stupidity. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not apologizing to my brother/sister-in-law for saying they starved their baby? Plus little update. My brother and his wife had their first baby 7 months ago. My mother, who lives with me, recently started watching the baby instead of placing in daycare. So the baby is at my house all week. It's been a month, and my mom says that the baby barely sleeps. Will cry and show signs of tiredness, but only naps for half an hour at the most. My brother and sister-in-law have also told us that the baby still wakes up almost every 1 to 2 hours throughout the night, like a newborn, and it's extremely exhausting. They've tried plenty of different things, but nothing has improved much. The baby only drinks breast milk. Well, I know every baby's different, and what works for some might not on others. I still can't help but think they aren't feeding the baby enough. As a mother of 3 myself, all my kids started differently. One ate baby cereals at 4 months, another didn't take solids until 6 months. But I think I have a good sense of when a baby is ready to start taking in more. After finding out that they only feed a baby 4 ounces at a time, I suggested talking to a pediatrician about starting baby in solids. They said a doctor already gave them the go-ahead, but my brother and sister-in-law didn't think the baby was ready yet. So I said I think upping his ounces in milk would probably help baby sleep better. Fuller is equal to longer stretches. They brushed me off. The last Friday, my mom was watching the baby. I decided on her own to give the baby smashed up banana, which the baby absolutely loved. My sister-in-law was pissed, and obviously I can see why. It wasn't my mother's call to make for numerous reasons. But my mom wouldn't back down, saying they were starving their grandchild. So they called me and basically demanded I get in the middle and make my mom apologize to them or she wouldn't see the baby anymore. I told them I think she should apologize for not getting their permission, but that I don't think my mother is wrong for her reasoning. That they aren't feeding their child enough. It may be because they're new parents, they ought to hear other parents out. They called me some choice words and said they don't feel comfortable leaving their child at my house anymore until we apologize. I said I wouldn't give their baby anything they didn't want me to, but that I will not apologize for voicing my opinion. Am I the a-hole for not just apologizing and keeping my opinions to myself? Now my mother and I might not get to see the baby for the foreseeable future. Now for the top comments before the little update. You're nicer than I am. I would have called their pediatrician. They are a mandatory reporter, and this could easily be a CPS issue. Kids die because of stuff like this. But they saw a doctor, and they would have noticed if the baby is not gaining weight. There's so much info missing in this post. Does the baby gain weight? Does he reach his milestones? Is he only getting pumped milk or milk directly from the mother too? Nature doesn't let you track volume, so you never know how much they drink. Not day home. Call the pediatrician. I had an in-law that was starving her infant son. I was getting ready to call CPS when the pediatrician yelled at her, told her to get the baby a high chair and start feeding him. Info. Is the baby actually underweight and failing to thrive? If baby's breastfeeding, you have no idea how much baby is having at a time. 7 months is roughly the right time to start on solids for most babies. But you do realize that when you start yours in solid at 4 months, that's totally against medical advice now, right? 6 months is the earliest they should be introduced to anything other than breast milk/formula. So I need more info to judge this one. If baby is underweight, then you're not the a-hole. But if baby is developing properly at a healthy weight, is determined by a professional who has been mapping their growth and weight, etc., then you're absolutely an a-hole. Edit and slight update. I see a lot of call CPS. Neither my mom nor I think involving CPS is appropriate. We know the parents love their baby and are just worried about giving baby the wrong thing. Baby has regular checkups and doesn't seem like he misses a meal. There's never been any reports of malnutrition, so this is why, I assume, parents have felt comfortable going at the pace they are. We know the baby eats 4 ounces at a time because that's how much are in each bottle, and sister-in-law says 1 bottle each feeding. But we have no idea how much baby drinks when she directly breastfeeds at home. She works part-time, so baby's only with mom for 6 hours a day at most. That's about 2 to 3 bottles worth. I know I said I think they aren't feeding baby enough, but that was out of concern for sleep and parent sanity, and not because I think they're purposely starving their child. I talked with my brother and told him my concerns. He said we'll start baby on solids slowly, their own blends of mixed veggies. But fruits are too sugary, and they don't want baby to get used to sweets first. Ultimately, I think they took what I said under consideration, and are still navigating new parenthood. However, they are still not talking to my mom, because they don't trust that she will consult with them first before giving their child foods they haven't tested themselves. Until she apologizes, I don't think mom will be babysitter anymore.